Rachel had exactly $900 left in her bank account. That was it. $900 to her name after the divorce, after the lawyer fees. After selling her wedding ring just to pay rent one last time, most people would have saved it, protected it, used it to survive one more month. Rachel did something else. She bought a house. Not a normal house, an abandoned one. The listing was strange. No interior photos, cash only, sold as is. The price? $900 for the deed transfer at a county auction. Everyone told her it was a mistake. It's probably falling apart. It's probably dangerous. It's probably hiding something. They were right about one thing. It was hiding something. The first time Rachel pushed open the broken front door, dust filled the air. The windows were cracked. The floors creaked under every step. Her son squeezed her hand tightly. "Are we really living here?" he whispered. Rachel didn't answer. Because the moment she stepped into the kitchen and saw what was carved into the wooden floorboards, she realized this house had not been abandoned by accident. Rachel never thought her life would shrink down to numbers on a screen. Before the divorce, she did not worry about bank balances every morning. She did not count every dollar before buying groceries. She did not lie awake at night wondering how long the lights would stay on. But divorce changes more than relationships. It changes stability. Her husband had handled most of the finances. When the marriage collapsed, so did everything tied to it. Legal fees drained their savings. The house was sold quickly below market value just to split the debt. Rachel walked away with less than she expected, much less. She moved into a small apartment with her 8-year-old son, Ethan. At first, she told him it was temporary, a fresh start. A smaller place meant less cleaning, she joked. But months passed. Her job at a local insurance office barely covered rent. Child support came late and often short. Unexpected bills felt like personal attacks. When her landlord posted a notice about rising rent, Rachel felt something inside her go quiet. Not panic, not anger, just exhaustion. She sat at the kitchen table late one night, staring at her online banking app. The number glowed back at her. $900.27, that was all she had left after paying rent, utilities, and groceries for the month. $900 to survive until the next paycheck. She closed her eyes and tried to breathe slowly. She could stretch it, maybe, but one emergency would end everything. The next morning she searched for cheaper apartments. Nothing within reach. Everything required deposits she could not afford. That was when she saw it. A county property auction notice buried on a government website. One listing stood out. Residential property, sold as is. Minimum transfer fee, $900. Rachel almost laughed. $900, the exact amount sitting in her account. She clicked the listing. No interior photos. Just an address and a warning. Structure may require repairs. Buyer assumes all risk. All risk. The phrase echoed in her mind. Most people would see danger. Rachel saw something else. Ownership. No landlord, no rent increase, no eviction notice. She drove past the address that afternoon. The house sat at the end of a quiet street, paint peeling, windows dusty, grass overgrown. It looked forgotten, but the structure was still standing. Solid foundation, brick exterior, not a total ruin. Ethan looked at it from the passenger seat. "Is that place haunted?" he asked. Rachel smiled faintly. "It's just old." She didn't tell him what she was thinking. If she kept paying rent, the $900 would disappear anyway. If she bought the house, at least she would own something. It was reckless. It was desperate. But she was tired of barely surviving. That night, she stared at the auction form on her laptop. Her finger hovered over the submit button. $900, everything she had left. She whispered to herself, "What's the worst that could happen?" Then she clicked. By the time she closed her laptop, the money was gone. And she had just bought a house she had never stepped inside. She had no idea that the real cost of that decision would not be measured in dollars. It would be measured in secrets. The confirmation email arrived the next morning. Property transfer approved. Rachel read it 3 times to be sure. It was real. She now owned the abandoned house at the end of Maple Street. There was no ceremony, no agent handing her shiny keys. Just a simple note from the county office telling her where to pick up the lockbox code. Ethan didn't fully understand. "Are we moving today?" he asked. "Soon," she said, trying to sound confident. Inside, she felt the weight of what she had done. She had no savings now, no backup plan, just a house she had never entered. That afternoon, they drove back to Maple Street with 2 backpacks and a small toolbox she borrowed from a neighbor. The sky was gray and the air felt heavy. The house looked the same as before. Quiet, still, watching. Rachel walked up the cracked concrete path and found the lockbox hanging from the old doorknob. Her hands shook slightly as she entered the code. The box clicked open. Inside was a single rusted key. "That's it," Ethan whispered. "That's it," Rachel replied. She slid the key into the lock. It didn't turn at first. She pushed harder. With a loud metallic crack, the door unlocked. The smell hit them immediately. Dust, old wood, something stale. Rachel stepped inside slowly. The living room was empty except for a broken chair near the wall. The wallpaper peeled in long strips. Sunlight pushed through dirty windows, revealing floating dust particles in the air. Ethan clutched her hand. "Are we really staying here?" he asked again. Rachel forced herself to nod. "We'll clean it up." They moved room by room. The kitchen cabinets hung crooked. The sink was stained. A few old dishes sat stacked in the corner, as if someone had meant to return and never did. Upstairs, 2 bedrooms waited. One had cracked floorboards. The other was smaller but usable. "It's not falling apart," Rachel whispered to herself. "Not completely." That was something. She walked back downstairs and stepped into what looked like a dining area. That was when she noticed it, the floorboards. One section near the center looked different. The wood there was slightly darker, scratched, as if someone had dragged something heavy across it repeatedly. Rachel crouched down and ran her hand over the surface. Carved into the wood were faint lines, not random, letters. She brushed dust away carefully. Ethan leaned closer. "What does it say?" he asked. Rachel squinted. The carving was rough but clear enough. "Do not trust." The rest was damaged, scraped away. Her heart began to beat faster. "Trust who?" Ethan asked. Rachel didn't answer. She stood up slowly and looked around the empty room. The house no longer felt simply abandoned. It felt interrupted. Like someone had left in a hurry or been forced to. She swallowed hard. $900 had bought her shelter, but it might have also bought her a story she didn't yet understand. And something told her the house wasn't done revealing it. Rachel tried to convince herself it was nothing. Old houses had markings. Kids carved initials. Owners left strange notes. It didn't mean danger, but the words on the floor felt deliberate. "Do not trust." Trust who? She pushed the thought aside for Ethan's sake. They spent the rest of the afternoon opening windows and sweeping dust into small piles. Every movement stirred up more questions. The house felt empty, yet not forgotten. By early evening, exhaustion set in. Rachel plugged in a small lamp using an extension cord she brought from the apartment. The electricity worked. That alone felt like a victory. Ethan sat on the floor upstairs, unpacking his few books. "Mom," he called down softly, "there's something weird in my closet." Her chest tightened instantly. She climbed the stairs quickly and stepped into the small bedroom. "What is it?" Ethan pointed toward the back wall of the closet. One of the panels didn't sit flush. It was slightly raised at the bottom, like it had been moved before. Rachel knelt down and pressed against it. The wood shifted. Her heart skipped. She pulled harder. The panel came loose, revealing a narrow gap behind it, a hidden space. Not large, but intentional. Inside there was a metal box, small, heavy. Rachel felt a chill run down her spine. This wasn't random damage. This was hiding. She carefully lifted the box out and set it on the bedroom floor. It had no lock, just a simple latch. She hesitated, then opened it. Inside were papers. Neatly stacked, old photographs and a folded map. Ethan leaned closer. "What is it?" Rachel picked up the first photograph. It showed the house. Years ago, fresh paint, clean yard. A family stood in front of it. A man, a woman, a little girl. They looked happy. She flipped to the next photo. The same house, but this time police cars in the background. Yellow tape across the front door. Her breathing slowed. She reached for the papers. Most were newspaper clippings, local headlines. Investor disappears without trace. Financial investigation opened. Authorities search Maple Street residence. Rachel felt her stomach drop. The address in the article matched the house she now owned. Her house, the man in the photograph, he had vanished. No body found, no confirmed crime, just disappearance. The final paper in the stack was different, a handwritten note. The ink slightly faded. "If you find this, then they never finished what they started." Rachel's hands trembled. "They're not who they say they are." Ethan looked up at her. "Who's they?" he whispered. Rachel didn't know. Her mind raced. The carved message downstairs, the hidden box, the newspaper articles. This house hadn't been abandoned because it was worthless. It had been abandoned because something went wrong, something serious. She unfolded the map slowly. It showed the property lines of the house, but there was a red circle drawn near the basement. Her breath caught. She hadn't checked the basement yet. And suddenly, the house felt much deeper than 2 floors and peeling paint. It felt like it was waiting for someone to look beneath the surface. Rachel had avoided the basement on purpose. When they first walked through the house, she noticed the narrow door near the kitchen that led downstairs. It was old and slightly warped, with chipped paint around the handle. She told herself she would deal with it later. Now, standing in Ethan's room holding the map with the red circle drawn near the basement corner, later felt unavoidable. "Stay upstairs," she told Ethan gently. "I want to come," he said. "No," she replied more firmly than she meant to. "Just for a minute." She carried the metal box and papers downstairs and placed them on the kitchen counter. Then she stood in front of the basement door. Her hand hovered over the knob. The house was quiet, too quiet. She turned it slowly. The door creaked open. A wave of cold air drifted up from below. The basement stairs were narrow and wooden. The single bulb hanging from the ceiling flickered when she pulled the chain. It worked, barely. She stepped down carefully. Each step echoed. The basement was unfinished. Concrete floor. Exposed beams. Old shelves against the wall. At first glance, it looked empty, but the red circle on the map had been drawn near the back right corner. Rachel walked toward it slowly. Her shoes scraped lightly against the floor. The corner looked ordinary until she noticed the concrete. One square section was slightly different in color, smoother, as if it had been patched. Her pulse quickened. She crouched and ran her hand across it. The surface was not as solid as the rest. She stood up and scanned the room. Near the shelves, she found an old metal crowbar leaning against the wall. Her breathing became shallow. She returned to the patched concrete and pressed the edge of the crowbar into the seam. She hesitated. If this was nothing, she would feel foolish. If it was something, she pushed down. The concrete cracked, not loudly, but enough. She pulled again. A small section broke loose. Beneath it was dirt. Fresh dirt compared to the rest of the basement. Her heart pounded in her ears. She knelt down and used the crowbar to dig carefully. After a few inches, she hit something solid. Metal. She brushed away the dirt with her hands. A small steel case. Bigger than the one she found upstairs. Heavier. She pulled it out slowly. No lock, just thick hinges. Her hands shook as she lifted the lid. Inside were stacks of sealed envelopes, a hard drive, and a thick folder labeled simply, "Evidence." Rachel's stomach dropped. Evidence of what? She opened the folder carefully. Photographs, copies of bank statements, contracts signed by multiple people, names highlighted in red, one name repeated more than the others. A well-known developer in the city. She recognized it instantly. That developer was currently building luxury apartments just 5 streets away. Her chest tightened. The newspaper article had mentioned an investigation into financial irregularities, missing funds, investors cheated. The disappeared man had been involved in that case. And this folder looked like proof that could expose someone powerful. Rachel heard a floorboard creak upstairs. Her heart stopped. "Mom," Ethan called softly. "I'm here," she replied quickly, trying to steady her voice. But as she looked down at the folder again, one thought became clear. This wasn't just an abandoned house. It was a hidden archive. And someone had gone to great lengths to bury it, which meant someone might still want it buried. Rachel carried the steel case upstairs slowly, her arms shaking, not from the weight but from what it meant. She locked the basement door behind her. Ethan sat at the kitchen table, drawing quietly. "Everything okay?" he asked. Rachel forced a small smile. "Yeah, just old stuff." But it wasn't just old stuff. She placed the case on the table and opened it again, this time under brighter light. The hard drive sat beside the folder labeled evidence. It looked newer than everything else in the house, almost recent. That meant someone had updated this, not decades ago, not ancient history. Recent enough to matter. She flipped through the documents again. Bank transfers routed through shell companies, property deals signed under pressure. Investors listed as silent partners who had later filed lawsuits. And the developer's name, Daniel Kessler, appeared on almost every page. Kessler was powerful. His face was on billboards around town. He sponsored local events, donated to charities, smiled for cameras. Rachel remembered seeing him shaking hands with city officials just last month. Her chest tightened. If this evidence was real, it could destroy him. And if it could destroy him, it could destroy anyone connected to it. She opened one of the sealed envelopes. Inside was a letter written by the missing homeowner. "If anything happens to me, the truth is in the basement." Her breath caught. "I trusted the wrong partner. I tried to fix it quietly. They warned me to stay silent." The ink trailed slightly at the end of the sentence. "They said accidents happen." Rachel felt cold. The man hadn't just disappeared. He had been scared. Her mind raced. If the investigation years ago had failed, it meant this evidence was never found. No one knew it existed, except now she did. And if anyone discovered she had it, a loud knock echoed at the front door. Rachel jumped. Her heart slammed against her ribs. No one knew she had moved in yet. She hadn't told anyone except the county office. The knock came again, slower, measured. Ethan looked up. "Mom?" Rachel walked slowly toward the door but didn't open it. "Who is it?" she called. A man's voice responded. "City inspection. We received notice this property has a new owner." Her stomach dropped. "Inspection already." Through the small crack in the curtain, she saw a black SUV parked outside. 2 men stood near the porch. One held a clipboard, the other watched the house. Watched carefully. Rachel's pulse pounded. City inspections didn't happen within hours of a purchase, and they didn't arrive without prior notice. She stepped back from the door quietly. The folder on the table suddenly felt heavier. The carved message on the floor echoed in her mind. "Do not trust." The rest had been scratched away, but maybe the house had already finished the sentence. She looked at Ethan. Then at the steel case. Then back at the door as another knock sounded. Whoever was outside didn't look like they planned to leave. Rachel didn't open the door. The knock came again, firmer this time. "Ma'am, we need to inspect the property," the voice called out. She stepped back quietly and motioned for Ethan to move away from the front windows. Her mind was racing, but one thing felt clear. If they were real inspectors, they would have paperwork. If they were not, opening that door would be a mistake. She pulled out her phone and searched the city inspection office number. Her fingers trembled as she dialed. Outside, one of the men tried the doorknob. Locked. "Ma'am," the voice called again, less polite now. The call connected. "City Building Department," a woman answered. "My name is Rachel Turner," she said quickly. "I just purchased the property on Maple Street. 2 men are here claiming to be inspectors." "Is there an inspection scheduled today?" There was a pause. "Let me check," Rachel could hear typing. "No, ma'am," the woman replied. "There is no inspection request for that address." Her blood ran cold. "Thank you," Rachel whispered, ending the call. Outside, the men stopped knocking. She peeked carefully through the side window. One of them was on his phone, the other was scanning the street, watching, waiting. This wasn't routine, this was targeted. Her eyes moved to the steel case on the table. They didn't know what she had found. Not yet, but they knew something. The house had been silent for years. Now it had a new owner, and someone had moved quickly. Rachel grabbed the hard drive and slipped it into her bag. Then she took photos of every document with her phone. Evidence backed up. If anything happened to the physical copies, the truth wouldn't disappear again. Another loud knock shook the door. "Last warning," the man called out. Rachel felt something inside her shift. Fear had ruled her life for too long, through divorce, through financial collapse, through survival, but this was different. This wasn't about losing money. This was about protecting truth. She dialed another number. This time not the city, the police. When the operator answered, she kept her voice steady. "There are 2 men attempting forced entry into my property," she said clearly. Outside, the men stepped back from the door. One of them noticed her through the window. Their eyes met. For a split second, everything felt still. Then the man gave a small nod to the other. They walked quickly toward the SUV. The engine started. By the time police sirens echoed faintly in the distance, the vehicle was already turning the corner. Gone. Rachel stood in the quiet house, heart still racing. Ethan walked over and hugged her tightly. "Are we safe?" he asked. She looked around the house, at the carved warning in the dining room, at the hidden basement floor, at the folder filled with secrets. "We will be," she said softly, because she understood now. The house had not been abandoned, it had been silenced. And she had just decided she would not be.